Coming to you live from the studios of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation in Accra. We come to you live this and every Sunday with issues of national concern and engage you in discussions for informed decision-making. We are streaming live on GBC Ghana Online, on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, and as always, we welcome those who are listening to us on Unique 95.7. Over the past week, Ghana was rocked by a series of major developments that raised questions about governance, accountability, and the rule of law. From the unveiling of the probe against the former Minister of Finance and 8 others by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, to the revelation of over 80,000 ghost names on the National Service Agency payroll, to the Attorney General's controversial decision to drop cases against officials in the current administration, each of these issues strike at the heart of our democracy. And just as the dust settled, the government moved to revoke appointments and recruitments made since December 7th, sparking fresh debates about transparency and political maneuvering. Tonight, we unpack these interconnected stories with our panel of experts, examining what they mean for our institutions, our economy, and the trust that Ghanaians place in our leaders. Are we witnessing a fight against corruption, or is this selective justice? Those appear to be the two stories many Ghanaians are talking about. And what do these developments signal for Ghana's governance landscape moving forward? We encourage you to send messages to our show during the show to our WhatsApp number 020-380-3174. The number again is 020-380-3174. And we ask that you kindly include your name when you send your comments in. With me in the studio for tonight's discussion is Victor Kwadjoga Adawudu. He's a lawyer and member of the NDC legal team. I'm sorry. I tried.
You won't start eating okra. You'll be able to pronounce me.
Next to him is Bishop Dr. Suzanne. She's a chair, Crusaders Against Corruption. Welcome to the show. We are expecting Mr. Senyo Hosi, Director, OneGhana Movement, to join us. And we also have Kwasi Kwarteng, private legal practitioner and former spokesperson, Minister of Education, who is on the phone with us. And we have via Zoom, Mr. Manasseh, Azure, investigative journalist and author. So welcome to all of you to the discussion for tonight.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on this platform.
Great. So, last week, we were all surprised, at least many people were surprised, when the OSP held a press conference. And in the press conference, he indicated that there was a person wanted to answer charges in respect of several cases. And the cases he listed were the contractual arrangements between Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited and the Ghana Revenue Authority for the enhancement of revenue assurance in the downstream petroleum sector. That was one. The second was a termination of a distribution loss reduction and associated network improvement contract between ECG and Beijing Zhaosheng Technology. The third was the procurement of contractors and materials and the activities and payments in respect to the National Cathedral project. And we also had activities and payments in respect of a contract that was awarded to the Ministry of Health for the purchase of ambulances. And finally, payments out of and utilization of the tax refund account of the GRA. And of course, he announced that the name of the fugitive who was the former Minister of Finance, Kenneth Nana Yao Oforiatta. So let me start with you, Mr. Azure, if you're on. I wanted to find out if you were surprised by the fact that the OSP declared the former finance minister as someone who was a fugitive, or if you were surprised by that any of the active cases that I mentioned were being investigated by the Minister of Finance. I don't think he's with us right now, so maybe I'll start with you, Dr. Nti. Were you surprised by the fact that the former minister, the OSP declared the former minister as someone who was wanted, a fugitive, and or were you surprised by any of the cases that were listed?
In terms of coming up in the public, the court of in the public domain, right now. Yeah, in the public domain, you know, saying that somebody is a fugitive, that was surprising. Okay. Because normally somebody, if an investigation is ongoing, it is when someone has been charged or arrested that you would say somebody is a fugitive, rather than coming out into the, you know, court of the public domain and saying this when a competent court of law has not
found the
person guilty.
Okay,
so that was surprising.
Surprising to you. Okay, so just before we continue, we're going to take a very short break. We'll be right back. Please stay with us. We have a lot to cover this evening. We'll be right back.
GBC Client Service.
Hello, thank you for calling.
GBC provides you the platform to amplify your brand reach. When you advertise on our 7 TV channels
and 18 regional and district radio stations across the country.
Please reach our sales department at sales@gbcghanaonline.com and telephone numbers 0303 959604 and 0303 959605.
For all customer care issues, reach us by email care@gbcghanaonline.com and on telephone 030-3959-605 and 030-3959-606.
GBC, still the most authentic voice.
Meet Kwame. He's not just any Kwame. He's Kwame the TV license legend. Kwame knows that by paying his TV license, he's supporting GBC, our public service broadcaster, and he's making a real difference. Kwame's contribution helps bring our communities closer together. Because of Kwame and others like him, we will all have access to amazing TV programs, educational content, plus broadcasting infrastructures are maintained and our culture is beautifully promoted. So GBC is asking all to respond to this civic obligation and pay your TV license fee. For individuals, it's 3 CDs per month or 36 CDs per year. If you have multiple sets, meaning 2 or more in your household, it's 60 CDs per year. For commercial institutions, it's your number of TV sets by 36 CDs per year, and you pay the invoiced amount directly to GBC. So let's all take a moment to appreciate Kwame, the TV license legend. Wherever you are, just dial *447*333# and follow the prompt. It's your civic duty, so pay your TV license today. GBC, the authentic and trusted voice of Ghana.
Back to Talking Point. Tonight we're discussing Ghana's post-election transition and we're talking about accountability or partisanship. And just before the break, we talked about the 5 things that we're going to talk about from the OSP's declaration as a fugitive of the former Minister of Finance. And Ms. Azure, if you're here with me, I'd like to just ask, were you surprised by any of the comments that the OSP made, especially with regard to the fact that the former minister had been declared a fugitive of justice, and or any of the cases that the OSP mentioned were a part of the probe?
Well, I was not surprised about the cases. I was surprised about the declaration of Ken Ofori-Atta as a fugitive of justice. I didn't know he was out of the country. I didn't know the processes that had happened behind the scenes. And having heard and listened to all the facts available, I tend to agree with those who believe that perhaps it was too early for him to have been declared that way. But in terms of the substance of the issue, and I think that we should not pay so much attention, even though it's necessary, we shouldn't spend too much time as a country following the form is taken, leaving the substance, because the issues that have been mentioned are pretty serious. And before they handed over, there were many who called for the prosecution of Ken Ofori-Atta. And one of the cases, that's the Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited, the SML, that I investigated, I can say for a fact that it is one of the worst cases of corruption I have seen in this country. And we know that $141 million has already been paid to this company. And in 2023, the consolidated contract entitled this company to about over $100 million a single year. So the contract said 5 years, renewable for another 5 years. Meaning the first 5 years, you're looking at over 500 million United States dollars. And this is a company that I'm very convinced from the services they provided, and we investigated, and they had to delete some from their website. This company wasn't worthy of $1 from the state of Ghana, but we paid $141 million and went on to expand it at the instance of Ken Ofori-Atta. So if such a person is wanted for prosecution or to answer questions, I am not surprised. Okay. But maybe the announcement and the nature of it perhaps was a bit problematic, and I think the lawyers have given us enough reason why at this stage it was too premature to perhaps mention the fugitive in this instance.
Okay, so Mr. Hosi, what about you? I'm really looking about how significant this investigation is in our fight against corruption on a general basis, and whether or not it signals a shift in how financial misconduct is going to be handled from now on.
If you really want to deal with corruption, you have to deal with it at the top. And that's when the right message goes down the spine of the entire country. We have failed to do that. We have absolutely failed to do that. Nana Adawudu disappointed a lot of people on that particular score. And the Office of the Special Prosecutor is yet to actually show value for its existence as we speak. It's not time for us to just have talk. So taking high-profile cases like these quite seriously is very important in trying to shape and re-engineer the psyche and the value system. Corruption is becoming a part of our architecture, and it's becoming normal. We are beginning to progressively accept the fact that you should be corrupt. We commend politicians whose wealth we can't explain. We commend them for being able to accrue that wealth when they are in office. From our villages, we revere them the most. In our churches, they take the front seats. They must be the chair of the harvest. You know, nobody asks, how did you? Because you were just here with us, and we know how things were. But nobody's asking. We know your salary. You can't explain it, you know, and we rather encourage it. We have built a society where you are expected to be corrupt when you have some kind of office, because you must let the largesse trickle down. Now you go everywhere. Any service people give you, even in private or public, people expect you to do something. You can't just be paid and be gone, and people commend you for good service, good work, and hold you to account. It's more about who is really dropping the thing. So we can't continue this way. We are not setting a good example for our children. I really fear for Ghana. We can't continue this way. But for us to fix it, it's not about the citizens fixing themselves. It's about the leadership fixing themselves so that it shows and carries the citizenry along. I'm not saying we shouldn't be doing things like education downstairs. We must. But what will really send the right signal is not catching the man who has stolen goat and chicken and keeping him in jail. It's dealing with those who have stolen the millions, who have held offices of trust and betrayed that office. Holding them accountable and responsible is where the correction that we need in this country relative to our new social psyche around corruption can be fixed. Okay. As far as the cases are concerned, the SML case was always a no-brainer. And we must commend and celebrate people like Manasseh for the work that they do. Somehow Manasseh is always in trouble with existing governments and becomes a loved one of opposing governments. I'm just praying that the current government and its party should change their attitude. When Manasseh was taking his cases, you were happy. If today he's questioning things, don't go and attacking the man. Debate the case. It's okay. But his work has been transformational, has been a beacon of hope. It's been some sign that somehow we have Ghanaians who would stand in the gap for us. So we should celebrate the likes of Manasseh. Without Manasseh's work, SML would have continued being small talk that we in the industry all knew.
Well, but we couldn't. Yeah. The National Service Agency was also another one.
It was also discussed. My brother is here. It was discussed last year. This matter started coming out. Yeah. You understand? There was a question about who makes this money more than whoever in there. It was there. Yeah. I didn't see any move from the Attorney General. I mean, maybe I should be educated. Therefore, did you have anything from the Attorney General?
No, there was nothing. I think that, yes.
You see, it was a good case for the president, the past president. Should have actually left on a small high, which was still going to be fighting for faith, but it should have shown some sign, commencing an immediate inquiry into the matter. As whether it was true or not, after where I said, I don't know. But when the matter comes out, you must go into it and resolve it. So, how can we have 89,000 or whatever ghost names? And look at the way people are hungry. Schools under trees. People are suffering.
Yeah, the thing here is that, you know, we can debate whether it's politically motivated. Some see it that way, others think it's long overdue. But, you know, a lot of people, especially with what Mr. Hosi has said, are hoping that this is, whatever is going on, it's not something that is just being done for show, and that there will be something tangible at the end to make a case for not encouraging this kind of behavior. So from a legal perspective, and I'll ask Mr. Kwarteng the same thing, what legal or institutional challenges do you see in actually having this be seen all the way to the end, this case? What do you think that could hinder the investigation?
Well, for me, I think that the first question is that, did the OSP have the power to invite somebody for investigation? Yes, he has the power. Maybe it's the language that he used that is a fugitive. Problematic. Yes, fugitive, that is problematic. I don't see it much that way, because when the police are looking for somebody for investigation and you're not cooperating with them, they can declare you wanted. They can declare you wanted. I think it's the same thing that the OSP, with the narrative that we have been given, it's that they have been in communication for some time now. Yes. And his unwillingness to come or to appear before them, it's what made them to declare him that he's a fugitive, that he's gone to the United States, he's not within the jurisdiction. I'm sure that because he has the powers of the police, the OSP has powers of the police, it is on that basis that he may have, maybe the word is so harsh and excessive, but I think that why all the noise, maybe the form by which he did it, but everybody is subject to the law. And only investigation, at the end of the investigation, you may be found culpable or you've been absolved. So it is only investigation. And all the The views that we are making about it is that maybe the nature, he was a former high rank or he's a high profile personality. Yes. If this was an ordinary Ghanaian, we are saying, we would be making all this noise. A lot of people are declared wanted. Everybody keeps quiet over it. But is it because he's a former finance minister? That is why there's a hula baloo. Why did he was distressed? This is just an investigation. Yeah. We've seen most of investigations, when you are not guilty, they don't find anything, you're allowed to walk away free. So for me, whether the word used fugitive or you are wanted or you're not wanted, the substance of the matter is that we are looking for accountability. People who have served this nation, they must account for their stewardship. Okay. And I think that is the crux of the matter.
Okay, so, but I think that we can sensationalize everything. And when it comes to the Office of the Special Prosecutor, tell me the cases that have been successfully procedurally prosecuted. Half the time, there are so many procedural errors that the case gets thrown out. We want everybody to be, public servants to be accountable. So the investigation is very important. And when you sensationalize everything and the whole issue is now about the fugitive and not the issues that they are investigating. The charges, yeah. And it just throws, you know, the competence of the case, the integrity of the case into the public domain, and everybody talks about it as if there are no competent lawyers and the people who should know better and should be able to handle the cases appropriately are not doing that job. And
I don't agree. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, I don't agree. The man is running an investigation, and he's looking for you to cooperate. And you are finding stories not to make yourself available. If he feels that your stories are no more tenable, he has every reason to declare you wanted. You know, so I don't think there's a problem with him coming on air. And it's important that public officials also see these and they also advise themselves and realize that if they don't manage their affairs well today, tomorrow they may be the ones who will be announced. And you should also be fair to the special prosecutor. He didn't start this process yesterday. He didn't start it a day before. He has been working with this for months or a year or so. Okay. So if the cooperation was there, we won't be here.
Okay. So let me ask Mr. Kwarteng. So Mr. Kwarteng, thank you so much for being with us. Could you talk to us about how this investigation may impact public trust in the government, especially with high-profile individuals like what has happened with the former Minister of Finance? Mr. Kwarteng, are you there? Okay. So maybe I can ask Mr. Azure if you can probably pick up this question, you know, because the issue of public trust is important in the government. And all the cases we've listed, you know, the National Cathedral, the SML, the ECG, all these are really significant projects with a lot of monies involved. How do you think this impacts the public trust with government and government officials? Okay, so I think we're having some technical difficulties, so pardon us. So maybe I can ask you, Lawyer Adawudu.
I think that if you look at what has happened in the civil society, the agitation that is coming now, that they've seen that the political class was not ready to hone in their own people who have been with them when it comes to issues of accountability. So while civil society has been able to push forward, now everybody must see that when you serve the nation, you have to account for it. Your stewardship. It's not an issue that you see public service as a place to enrich yourself, self-aggrandizement, that you have now made it, you have arrived. Now, I can say that the same society, that our leaders reflect the society we have. Yes. Because it is culturally undertone. You know, they always say, Nibre. You know, in account, they tell you that where you are now, you are enjoying something, right? And everywhere, even in your community, everybody says, oh, you've been given position. Now you've been elevated. It means that everybody will now have to be coming to you. And if they don't have to give, what do? they get their hand tainted. So people going into public service now should know that there is a day of reckoning and accountability. If your hands are not tainted, you are a free man. No matter the number of investigations extended to you, and you know your hands are not tainted, you know, I always say, unless you are a witch, that you can say is political witch hunt. You are not a witch, you cannot be politically witch hunt.
You know, the whole idea of the public service is even when we use the word public servant.
Yes.
You know, and so over the years, I think some of these terminologies have just been only because of the expectations from the public when you get into that position. But you know, the integrity of everyone is really important. And if we're even talking about integrity, I wanted us to talk about the more than 80,000 ghost names on the National Service Agency payroll. I mean, the question becomes, how did such a large amount or number of ghost names, if it is found to be true, because the President has ordered an investigation, remain undetected for so long? Mr. Hosi.
You know, that's a classic example of a whole system failure. And for me, it's the definition of where we are as a country. This is where you have found a problem. This is happening everywhere. Go to the district assemblies, it happens in a different way. Go to the ministries, it happens in a different way. You go to the SOEs, it happens in a different way. Look at all our SOEs, show me which one of them is doing well. While they have the weight and the blessing of the entire state, they are always struggling. If this has to be looked at, I don't want this conversation being about the former CEO. I don't know the name of the title.
The Director General of National Service.
It's not just about her. You can't pull this stunt alone. It is something that runs from the top and goes down with people at the bottom. So you must line every single person and deal with every single person. Deal with this systemically. And when you hold people to account, we need to get our money back. That's if people have been found guilty. I want to ask lawyer, with your permission, though you are the host. So when people steal our money, I've been said in this society that's happened, and they get caught, and you send them to jail, do they give us back our money?
So before you go there, with Mr. Kwarteng on, I do want to get his take. So Mr. Kwarteng, good evening. Thank you so much for being able to join us. We have been talking about the former Minister of Finance and some of the charges that were against, active cases, I should say, that the OSP mentioned during his press conference. And I wanted to get your take on how significant you thought this fight was against corruption, and whether or not you have any thoughts on whether or not this whole process could signal a shift in how financial misconduct of any case, not necessarily what's going on now, should be handled in the future.
Okay, thank you very much, and good evening to you. I want to confirm if you are able to hear me in the studio.
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Okay, very much. So let me state that ordinarily, I am not sure any one of us, and even including the ordinary Ghanaian, would want to support corruption. And I've always maintained that when there are even suspicions alone, not even when charges has been pressed, it is very important that all parties involved avail themselves, at least for purpose of clarification and even closer to the matter. Because at the end of the day, most of these instances or cases, monies are involved. And when I speak about monies, I'm talking about the taxpayers' money. So I will not be here and maybe align myself with any person who is suspected to have committed corruption. I'm a Ghanaian first, before I even became a member of any political party, not even talk of even association with any individual. So yes, let me state clearly that I support any effort by any institution, particularly even this government, to be able to recover, to be able to punish, and also sanitize the system, so that at least we will be able to know that we have been able to restore a modicum of hope when it comes to this whole fight against corruption. But that said, we are in also a dispensation of law where due process and natural justice is also of paramount. And in as much as we strongly feel that people should be held accountable, when I refer to people, I'm talking about those who have been in public offices, whether they are actions or inactions, in as much as we strongly are of the opinion that they should account and also be transparent about their actions and inactions. It is also important that it has to be done within the high plane of due process. If you, as we are all aware, the OSP is primarily an investigative and prosecutorial body. And of course, my senior, Kwadjoga Adawudu, I mean, I won't need more education from me. I've gone through their act, the entire Act 959. I did not see any provision that gives them any powers of arrest. So I don't think they have the powers to make such an arrest. It is also important that based on the act that set them up, they lack jurisdiction to make certain pronouncements and even undertake certain initiatives when it comes to their course of work. We must also understand within the context of the conversation that an invitation to assist in investigations may not necessarily imply guilt. Even if you look at the 1992 Constitution, Article 92, for instance, it talks about the fact that all accused persons are even presumed innocent until proven guilty in the competent court of jurisdiction. Even within the instant case, the person involved, Mr. Oforiatta, has not even been charged. There has not been any charges pressed against him. He is not facing any prosecution. He has only been invited to go through investigation. And let me state boldly that when you are invited to assist with investigation by any law enforcement agency, you have two options. The first option is either to honor the invitation or reject it. So you can decline the invitation, and you are limited to do that. But when you do that, that is when the law enforcement agencies is then obligated to also use the processes within the law to then compel you to then come and answer such questions. So when you are invited to assist in investigation, for instance, in this particular case, and there is non-compliance, the expectation is that the OSP or the special prosecutor then goes to a court and gets an arrest warrant to compel you to come and answer questions.
Okay, so
at the point where you have failed to honor the invitation, you have also more or less evaded the arrest. That is where any state institution or law enforcement agency can then describe you as a fugitive from justice.
Okay, Mr. Kwarteng, thank you. I think what we are trying to, I really didn't want us to get into those details because I think your point is well taken. What I wanted to do was just talk in very general terms about the charges rather than going into the specific details. But I think the background...
Interestingly, there has not been any charge pressed against him. So,
well, yeah, what I meant was the OSP listed 5 charges, 5 investigations of 5 areas of probe, and those were where I was looking for some comments.
They were not charges.
Right. So granted, but those were more what I was looking for than the declaration of. I think at this point, I think Mr. Azure said something in the beginning that we should probably not look at all the fanfare around everything and probably just focus on the substantive issue. So I'm hoping that that's what we are able to do. But I think your point is well taken because it situates also the of the NPP and where they stand vis-a-vis what is happening right now with Mr. Oforiatta. But we have 3 other topics that we wanted to talk about. So I'll come to you in a few minutes, but I wanted to ask you, Dr.
Can I quickly just, as to the law where they have the police powers, if you look at Section 28 of the OSP, that officers to exercise powers of the police.
Okay. So Dr.
You should look at that.
So Dr. Nti, we were talking about the ghost names on the payroll. So what I wanted to find out from you is what systematic changes, because this is, you are the Crusaders for corruption.
Crusaders against corruption.
Yes, Crusaders against corruption. So when you see or hear things like this, what comes to mind in terms of where Ghana is in terms of the corruption fight, and what systematic changes needs to be implemented to take us away from these things that keep popping up all the time?
Okay, and that's the main crux of the matter. because we all know what the problem is. But what do we need to change? As Senyo said, it's a systemic corruption in the systems. This, obviously, there's a system of payroll or whatever in this NSA, and people have managed to go round the system. Because apparently if you put in a name, an address, a first name, middle name, surname, obviously if it's the same date of birth and the same address, it should flag something. So that means there's an override. And if one person can have like 200 accounts or how many ever accounts, that means this is a conspiracy, as you said. It's a conspiracy. It's a mafia in the organization. And what you need to do to deal with those kind of things is to change the system. And as you said, it's leadership. Because you cannot change the algorithm of a system unless it is, you have to change the whole algorithm. And that algorithm is managed by somebody.
With controls.
Yes. And so if the person at the top hasn't got the algorithm, or maybe they came to meet it and they didn't put it in place, they won't be able to change it because the people will not want it changed from, So they will sabotage the work. So you need people of integrity at the top, leaders who know what they need, the vision. Like you need a strategic plan for that organization, whether it's national service or whatever. And it's the person at the top or the people at the top, the committee at the top, that need to change the system. So for example, and in any ministry, because if you go into any ministry, you will see that there are gatekeepers in every department. And how are you going to deal with that? Because even if you put a new head on the top, which is what happens, they have to bring in new layers of leadership. And we are talking about accountability or partisanship. So our institutions are very weak. Because if they weren't weak, if a new administration came in, the people in that system or in that institution will be able to run the system or the institution so that the people whoever is governing will be able to get from that system what it is supposed to give out. So you're asking about a solution. A solution is that the mindset change, which we believed with the NDC coming, resetting Ghana. Resetting Ghana is not just coming to switch a few buttons. We all want the Ghana, the Ghana we want together. But if I'm only putting people that I want because they are loyal to me, then it's going to be difficult because there are more people who want a better Ghana than in your party. Yeah. There are people in MPP, there are people in NDC, there are competent people who can build Ghana. But if you want to control Ghana, then you will not get that competency. You will not be able to recruit the people that you need in leadership. And there are people of integrity in Ghana. There are people who are willing to work without looking for a building or a 4x4, or they will use their own petrol to build
the Ghana we want.
To build. Look at Burkina Faso. Within 3 years, they have paid their national debt. The money we are chasing is enough to pay off all our debts and pay our civil servants. What is our vision for the nation? What do we want as a people? Are we ready to do the cleanup that we need in this country, in every ministry, in every district? This ways and means funds that people have, you want a building permit, but you have to pay double because of the ways and means fund. And they say it with impunity.
Let me come in. I disagree with my brother Senyo when say it is a systemic failure. No, this is an organized crime.
Oh my gosh.
Organized crime.
All right, so
on that note, I withdraw my own and I subscribe to this.
Because
200%.
So
organized crime.
You know, but in all fairness, we also have to acknowledge that these are investigations that are proceeding.
Yes.
Granted, we have strong feelings about it, but we should also be patient and see it, allow the system to work.
Yes.
And hopefully the system we are talking about has enough checks and balances in it that things will come out the way it should.
Let me just give you a little insight into what happens at National Service.
Just quickly, because Mr.
Just a
Azure.
little.
Okay.
You see, this is the same institution that some people were prosecuted and sent to jail.
Yes.
Abu Gapele,
Yes.
The former director, and even some were just pardoned recently.
Yeah.
Right. What happened was that because National Service...
You should clarify that. Abu Gapele was prosecuted by his own...
his own
government.
The same government. Right. So what happens is that the National Service, what was happening is that when they are having people to serve, now they bring their names, and what actually happened was that they put in, it's an organized and all the district directors are aware. So whilst the money comes, they go for the money and they send it to the top.
Okay.
Now once it's sent to the top, so at the top, the people were like, how much is your salary? And at the end of the month, you bring me money. Oh, boss, this is just something for you. So they took an investigation to find why. Not doing that was how the whole thing started. Okay. Then they mop up. Then the money gets to the top. I'm telling you that this is a way that it cannot happen that one individual person
is doing it. Okay.
Because one of the things that happens is that some of this money, when it is done, it is taken and given for political financing.
Okay, so
the people at the top.
So let me just, Mr. Azure, I hope you're back with us. We've been able to touch on the former Minister of Finance. We've also touched on the 80,000 names that 80,000 plus names that are on the National Service Agency payroll. But we only have half an hour, 15 minutes, I think. But I wanted to just get your views on the, the Attorney General also dropped certain cases involving government officials, and he held a press conference to state some of his reasons why. And so I don't want to rehash the reasons, but I wanted to get your thoughts on whether or not the decision to drop these court cases against individuals within this current government, whether you thought it undermined the rule of law or the principle of equality before the law. Yeah. What are your thoughts on those?
Well, I think it undermines the fight against corruption in some way. As I said in my article, some of the cases we had issues and concerns. So I wasn't surprised when those cases were dropped. But for some, there are still questions that we need to ask. In 2012, we borrowed 200.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Ms. Azure, okay. Okay, so Mr. Kwarteng, are you with us? Maybe you can pick up this question. Mr. Kwarteng, are you there? Well, it looks like it's us in the studio, so maybe...
I'm on.
Oh, okay, so could you maybe, I don't know, did you get the question? Maybe you can help us with your thoughts.
Are you referring to myself?
Yes, I got a question.
Oh, okay, so Ms. Azure, you're back, great. So you can continue, and when you're done, Mr. Kwarteng, I'll come to you to answer the same question.
Yes, so basically what I'm saying is that if you look at the Saglemi project, I am not insisting that Collins Dauda should be prosecuted, but if it is not Collins Dauda, there is someone else who was in charge. And we borrowed $200 million in 2012. We are paying that loan, paying interest. And as we speak, not a single person is occupying those housing. We are told the contract was varied at a point. We know the money was spent, and even the 1,500 units have not been completed. So, is there loss to the state, financial loss to the state? That is clear. Who caused it? At every material moment, there were government officials representing our interest on that project. So if you are paying the loan and paying interest, and after 13 years, we still do not have anybody occupying those buildings, we are going to get more money to even finish those that were started. If we say nobody should answer for this, the question I'm asking is, going forward, where shall we have the moral courage to pursue others in similar situations? And that is the point I am raising. Otherwise, the press conference and the explanation given by the Attorney General, going out of his way to explain, for me is commendable. It shows this is a government that is prepared to listen. But beyond the listening, some of the cases need to be revisited.
Okay. Thank you so much. Mr. Kwarteng, what about you? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I did not hear your question. I'll be glad if you can repeat it for me.
Sure. I was asking what your thoughts were on the decision by the Attorney General to drop some of the cases against the individuals in this current government, and whether that, amounted to undermining the rule of law or the principle of equality before the law.
Well, I think there are two sides of it, two sides of it, the legal part and the moral part, because at the end of the day, you are unable to separate even morality from the people. You are unable to separate culture from the people, and at the same time, there is also that bit of law. Of course, within the remit of the law, he has the powers to do same, withdraw, file null prosequity. Article 88 of the Constitution gives him such powers. If you also look at section 54 to 55 of Act 30, the Criminal Offences and Procedure Act, section 59, all gives him the powers to do so. Just that, the spirit of accountability, the spirit of governance, good governance, and even the spirit of transparency, you must also look at the mood of the nation and knows which decision you have to take. I've always maintained that when you talk about governance is not only about showing power. Governance is also about showing power out of wisdom. And it is not the case that since you have the power to file null prosequi, you abuse it. Even when you look at the Constitution within the remits of the law, the exercise of discretionary powers, which the AG exercise, also has to be done, in a more judicious and capricious, fair and reasonable way. If you look at Article 296 and even 23 of the Constitution. But this is my point. It is not in dispute that if you go to, for instance, Bank of Ghana, there is a question mark about 450 million Ghana cedis. Now that you discontinue the case to the extent that you withdraw, and the effect of the withdrawal, depending on the stage of the prosecution, is that you cannot even adduce new evidence to even prosecute the case again. Who answers for the 450 million Ghana cedis that got lost? If you go to, for instance, about the $15 million, who answers for sale? If you go to Cocoa Board, the 271 million Ghana cedis, who answers for sale? And the list can go on. So for me, my point is that, especially when a new government comes in, when you have the goodwill of the people are behind you, you started ORA, everybody is supporting you, you are going to have accountability. And on the flip side, the argument is that when the AG is sworn in, it just took 2 days, and about 6-7 cases has been withdrawn. It defeats the genuity, the credibility, and the honesty of the government in fighting corruption. But albeit, I am of the view that in terms of the law, he had the right to do so. It's just that it is an affront to proper accountability. It is an affront to proper transparency, and of course, it questions even the goodwill of the government when it comes to their fight against corruption.
Okay, thank you. So, Okay. All right. Much appreciated. So,
a
lawyer.
I think that he's agreed that the Attorney General has that power to file nolle prosequi. You see, the reasons this act, the Criminal Act, was passed in 1960. It's not something that was just passed today or yesterday that you can file nolle prosequi. Even the former Attorney General. There are two instances. This Collins Dauda's case, Dr. Alemena was part of that case, but he filed nolle prosequi to drop him. Even the Agozo case, I did, Agozo. Once they were even on bail, they were just going to report. He sat in his office and just said information that he's filed nolle prosequi. We challenged him that it is the court that admits. He says, no. The judge also agreed that you can sit in your office and file nolle prosequi. They don't see anything wrong with that. You see, and even the judge presiding over a case has no right to question you, the Attorney General, why you have filed nolle prosequi. It is for policy reasons that maybe when they look at the case, they will not be able to convict. Two, whilst the case is being done, maybe they've seen some lapses in their case. So the fact that you file a nolle prosequi does not mean that you cannot go back on looking at the fact and prepare a proper brief to go to court on the same facts. Right. So it's only that intention to tell that I'm not ready to defend that matter. Or you may see what has happened. You bring the person to tell you what was their modus, what they have done, to stop the next things that will happen. So for nolle prosequi, there are policy reasons why when the Attorney General or his authorized person does it. You see, so it is about some that were done. People are thinking about the money that was involved. The mere fact that you have been charged doesn't mean that you have committed. You have to prove it before the person. So if they are saying that money that the person has been charged, like Opuni, for 8 solid years, even the farmers came and said that they had good yield, the little of it. That was why, little of it. That was why Dr. Ampoma, who was coached and was penalized, was cited for perjury, and the judge refused to hear the motion.
I guess this is, yeah.
So these are some of the things that, when you look at it, for policy reasons, I would have said that, look, for transparency, for public trust, that is why the Attorney General went to the length to come and have a press conference and explain. But by law, not even the judge can ask you, why are you filing the nolle prosequi?
Okay,
so yes, everybody is for accountability, and I'm sure the Attorney General, a day will come for him also to account for his stewardship. Yes. If he has done something that is not right, the public will get to know.
Okay. And you know, I just wanted to say that in all fairness, this is probably why some people are saying that we should also give Mr. Foreta the benefit of the doubt, because as you go through a case... I understand. I think...
I don't think it's fair to his family, to himself.
Yes.
If it's done to any of us,
exactly.
They won't like this.
Exactly.
But that's why when they call you to cooperate,
appear,
you cooperate. You know, I have gone to Yoko only God knows how many times.
Yoko,
yes.
I took Cheriaite, I took Alex Segbefia. We go to Yoko. The number of people are represented at Yoko. Only God knows.
Okay, let me let Dr. Nti come in with...
I just want to say that, you know, because we have a new government, it is almost like when you come into power, the cases that are against you are the ones that you are giving nolle prosequi to. But let's say, if we trust in our justice system, and if the prosecution doesn't have a case to answer, then it will go through and everybody will see. But if somebody steps in, it's almost like you are bailing people out.
So at this point, go ahead, Mr. Hosi, and then I have to go back to
with this particular case. Yes. Let's take the CMA case that you are talking about. Yes, in that particular case, the money has been recovered. Now, from the bank that the loan was extended to. So, if the prosecution says, if I carry on, my matter will be moot. Why do you want to go and embarrass the state? There's no sense in it. Now, you take the Collins Dowda case, the Saglemi case. He did not withdraw. He filed a nollie prosequi because he was arguing that the sum you were accusing the man on was not tenable. Because a part of it, the state had recovered value by the virtue of the assets being there. Other people made payments. So he said, I won't withdraw. I'd rather enter a nollie prosequi, which gives the state an option to come back.
Okay.
So instead of us losing and getting out, let us strategically regroup. A tactical step back. Then move back in. Okay. It is one of the most intelligent things I've heard from an Attorney General in a long while now. And I think we should commend Dominic Ayini for setting a new bar in governance as far as the office of the Attorney General is concerned. He was honorable. He made sure he did not exercise the power given to him arbitrarily and capriciously. He was open and accountable to us, the people. We have lacked accountability from our leaders from a long time. He is the first minister to actually leave the rallying call of the president, who has asked us to ask his people to act accountably and modestly. And I think that we should adopt my heart for you.
So, Mr. Azure, if I can come to you, unfortunately we're running out of time. So I just wanted to ask all of you to just give a 1-minute reflection or statement on what has happened this week in Ghana and hopefully what you want to see going forward. So just a minute or so that each person can have the chance to say something as a way of closing out. So Mr. Azure, I'll start with you.
Okay, briefly, I'm not yet jubilating over anything. I have done investigations. I have worked with state security investigators. I have worked with prosecutors of the state and served as a witness in court. And what I can say is that a lot of people get away with crime, either because those doing the investigation sometimes rush, or the political class sometimes intentionally look away for crime to be committed. There was one case that we did and all the evidence could lead to prosecution. I mean, the NPP era, it never went to court. So a lot of these things, we should put pressure on all the parties, including the offices such as the OSP, so that they do diligent work and get prosecution and recoveries.
Thank you so much.
Otherwise, if we leave it to the politicians, nothing good will come out of it.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Kwarteng, if you could give us just briefly what your thoughts are about this week and what your expectations are going forward. Mr. Kwarteng.
Well,
Mr. Kwarteng, are you there? Okay, Mr. Hosi, if we can.
I think that the developments this week are welcoming, but the sweetness of the pudding is only in the eating. So we've seen the show, but we need to see the real action. If we don't get these things to cross the line into points where proper investigations are done and people are actually prosecuted and held accountable, nobody will take these processes seriously going forward. So I just pray that the special prosecutor has his act together. We should give him all the support he needs. Not because we want euphoria in. No, that's not the objective. But we want to make sure accountability and prosecution is effective. It is our resources which is our play. Whatever has to be recovered has to be recovered. My question wasn't answered by Adawudu. We want to know all these monies, in case when people steal the state money, do you just put them in jail or we're able to collect our money too? Other than that, we'll make it an enterprise. We'll steal the money, go to jail, wait for some time, come back and enjoy with our family and friends.
Okay, so I hate it.
There are two things. In criminal matter, the state is punishing you for the offense. The state can also make an order, the court, make an order that those monies should be paid back.
Recovered.
Now, if the court does not make that and punishes the person, it is now you have to take a civil action that when you have judgment against the person,
okay, so
you
we
can go after the property.
Okay, so Mr. Kwarteng, we only have just 30 seconds or so. So if you could just quickly just give me your thoughts. Really, I'm just trying to figure out what are your thoughts about the past week and going forward in terms of these cases and these issues that have come up this week.
Well, for me, I'm quite surprised that interestingly, the only particular that were only filed for politically exposed persons, whilst there were other cases that were subsisting within the past 8 years. So, in matters like this, I leave it to the jury out there to really think about it.
Thank you so much.
Interestingly, Mr. Hosi, who is running judgment on Oforiatta, is now saying that if you steal something and you return it, you must not be prosecuted. Is that what?
No,
okay, so no, I think
what I've said.
Yeah. So
and in the case of Isiama did not steal money. He extended money to UMB. If you want to accuse him for procedural issues, that's different. I'm not saying he's not guilty. I'm giving the reasons the AG has given.
Okay.
Because you made a statement asking how do we get our money back, and I'm trying to tell you that there's nothing to collect back because that money has already been paid back.
Okay,
if there's something else he must be held accountable for, I'm in full support of it.
Right, so
and I'm not holding
I will give you
guilty. No.
Dr. Nti, I'll give you just 30 seconds because right now we have to go. So just one line and then we can close out.
Yeah, so holding people accountable is key because it's public funds, it's government, it's Ghana citizens that they are working for, and the citizens also have to hold people accountable. Okay. Not just...
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much to everybody for joining me on tonight's conversation on Talking Points. A very, very special thank you to my guests. In the studio, we had lawyer Victor Kwadjoga Adawudu, yes. Very good. A member of the NDC legal team, Bishop Dr. Suzanne, Chair, Crusaders Against Corruption, Mr. Senyo Hosi, Director, OneGhana Movement. On the phone and on Zoom, we had Kwasi Kwarteng, XY, is a private legal practitioner and also the former spokesperson of the Ministry of Education. And we also had Mr. Manasseh, Azure, investigative journalist and author. I'm Prof. Anim-Wright, and this has been Talking Point. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday with us. As always, good night, good luck, and please take care. Till next week.
Follow us on our social media handles. Facebook at GTV Ghana.